as we take a look at your work week forecast for February 12th through the 19th, which is early this week because there's a big, there is a snowstorm. Not big, I almost called it a big snowstorm. I don't think we're going to call it big for the most part, but there is a snowstorm coming on Tuesday, and I wanted to talk about that. I'll have another forecast out for you Monday, tomorrow morning, which is when I would normally have my work week forecast out. I'm going to just focus on the storm because that's all you're going to really care about tomorrow. But I thought we'd do the work week forecast today instead and talk a little bit about what's going on the rest of the week as well and some of the details of the storm. This will mostly focus on the storm as well, but I do want to give you an idea of what's happening later on in the week as we talk about what's happening here as we get going. So let's a lot to talk about, so let's get going. First of all, here's what's going on satellite. You can see here is our stream of moisture, southern jet stream moisture that has been basically pumping warmth and a little bit of moisture in our direction. Certainly the clouds the last couple of days, the showers that came through last night, but it is sort of clearing through, and we are getting some slightly cooler air to come behind it. And what's happening is here we're getting a low pressure system that's kind of developing just to the west of the main feed of moisture here. There's an upper level system here and a surface low here, and eventually this is sort of going to detach itself not entirely from the flow, but kind of consolidate, and the flow here instead of just sort of being a front, is going to consolidate into a storm, which is then going to head in our direction. Now, the storm is going to rapidly develop, but it's going to be a quick mover, and it's going to be a little too far away from us to get us in the heart of the snow. But some places south of us where it snows, it's going to snow real hard, because even there it's not going to snow for that long. And some places in southern New England could certainly see over a foot of snow. We're not going to get that, I don't think, here. But they're going to see that in about 6 to 10 hours. So we're talking 1 to 2, maybe even some 3-inch an hour snow totals briefly with this system. It's not going to snow real long, and for us, it's really not even quite a 12-hour event. Pretty short, but it will snow even here pretty good, I think. The question is, how far north does that northern band go? Not for all of us in southern Vermont. I usually think of myself as forecasting for Rutland, Windsor, Bennington, and Windham counties. If you're in Rutland, particularly if you're in the northern half of Rutland or the northern half of Windsor County, this is mostly a miss for you. You'll have a little light snow, but areas south of that is where totals go up, and it's really the far southern part of Vermont where the heaviest amounts will happen, and even into western Massachusetts. But it is enough. We haven't had accumulating snow in a bit here, so it's definitely worth talking about. If we look at radar here, you can see we've got some pretty good thunderstorms starting to develop. The storm itself is starting to get going. It's going to take a while. It's going to kind of sit here as it kind of spins up, and then it's going to kind of redevelop as it comes across, and it's going to kind of slide from southwest to northeast. And exactly how far north that track gets, it's going to slide south of Cape Cod, south of the southern New England coast. But how far offshore it is will determine exactly how much snow we get here, and exactly where those heavier bands on the northern part of the heavier bands. The heaviest band will be south of Vermont. I can almost guarantee you that at this point. But there is a chance, sometimes you get a secondary band with these rapidly developing systems. That could make its way up into Vermont. There's some uncertainty with this forecast. I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers move around, or even if I don't move my numbers around from what I'm going to show you later on today. This is one of these I don't feel super confident in my forecast. It just sort of is what it is. And the models have kind of also gone in that direction. And some of the models have most of us in southern Vermont getting a pretty good dumping. Some of us have almost getting none. And I think both of those possibilities are sort of possible. We're kind of on the fringe of what's going to happen. But I'm going to give you my best ideas now. This isn't we've had systems like this winter, and we've done okay with them, but not amazing. So yeah, anyway, this is not a fun forecast for those of us in the meteorology business. But here's what's going on temperature-wise. This map is actually not great. Sorry, should have shown you this with a different background. But to give you some ideas, we're pretty warm. Certainly not as warm as we've been, but relatively warm here across Vermont today. But to our north, we're colder, and to our west, we're a little colder, and that's what we're tapping. We're not tapping frigid air. We will be all snow just with the track of this system, and it won't be super fluffy snow just because the temperatures will be in the upper 20s, but it won't also be the kind of snow that we're not going to have enough snow anyway to worry about power outages, but it's not that kind of sticky snow, at least for us. Maybe southern New England, that's maybe a different story, but for us, it's relatively kind of I guess average would be the way that you would call that, which according to Albany's National Weather Service site, our climatological average is about 12 inches of snow per inch of rain. I think we'll end up right about that for this storm. But that number can vary wildly, as low as 3 or 4 inches of snow and really heavy wet snow per inch, and sometimes if in really fluffy kind of clipper snow, you could get 20, 25 to 1 sometimes. Well, we're going to see 12, which is about our average. 10 is like the average worldwide, but we're usually get a little fluffier than average snow, at least compared to like places if you average the whole globe out. Anyway, upper level, yes. So we're digressing here. Here is our upper level system. That's a pretty vigorous shortwave and some northern stream energy. What's happened here that's different is we've had all this southern jet stream energy that's been pushed all that rain over the last couple of weeks into California, and it's continued and it's kind of pumped the moisture and the warmth in across the southeast, which has crept its way up to the northeast over the last few days. Here we have some northern energy that kind of went over this ridge in the northern jet stream and is gathering some of that moisture in the southern jet stream, and really need them to come together in order to get a rapid storm development. And this will become a rapid storm development, and especially as it gets out to sea, after it gets past us, it will explode into a really, really strong North Atlantic system. But we're kind of as that is happening, which is another thing that's always exactly when does the development happen? How fast does it happen? Always one of those questions models kind of struggle with. So, that's why this is a tricky one. Anyway, here's all the pieces are in place though for this to happen. And here's our system. Sorry. So here's our track options here. The system's going to kind of come across the Appalachians, and it kind of is going to be kind of taking a almost west to east track, and then it's going to curve to the northeast. And so how much it rapidly develops, how much it's going to allow for some of that moisture to wrap back in will also determine, and how far south, right? So if we take this more southern track, that's quite a ways, that's probably a little exaggerated. It's not going to be that far offshore. But we could hug pretty close to the coast if it tracks. If we take this northern track, we will get a little bit more snow than I'm predicting. If it did take a track this far south, we'd get none. It's obviously probably going to be somewhere in between these two, but these are sort of the ranges of opportunity. Not unusual. There's usually a range in the storms, and they determine exactly how much snow we're going to get. By the time the storm gets out here over Nova Scotia, we're going to cut off from the snow, but boy, it's going to wrap up big time. And that's going to give us some busy northwest winds on Wednesday and Thursday before we get another chance at more of like a frontal system, kind of a warm front with a little bit of light snow on Friday as well. So a busier weather week than we've had recently. I'm going the wrong direction here. Let's take a look at what those snowfall totals look like. And you're going to see that this is a pretty widely ranging storm. So for far north, even north of Rutland County, northwest of Rutland, only an inch or two, I think, up there, and maybe just a coating to an inch. There could be a pretty sharp edge to this. I might even be overestimating a little bit to the north potentially. I think Rutland and Windsor County, a lot of you are 2 to 4 inches. 3 to 5, a pretty good swath for the kind of from southern Windsor County, kind of southeastern Rutland County, so places like Mount Holly and things like that would still be involved in this 3 to 5. And then a lot of Bennington County and most of Windham County, 3 to 5. You get down towards Brattleboro and some of the higher elevations in the southern greens and the very southern greens, it could be 5 to 8 inches of snow. And there's a pretty good swath of close to a foot, maybe even more than this in some places south of us. So yeah, that's sort of what we're looking at. Enough, and the timing of this is such that school could potentially be an issue. I do have some details on timing. Let me get you to those now. Monday night into Tuesday storm details. Storm begins between about 4 a.m. Snow begins about 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Tuesday overnight should be Monday into Tuesday overnight. Sorry, Monday night into Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. So before you head out in the morning, it should be snowing in most locations. Snow falls heaviest from about 8 to 11 a.m. That's a pretty short burst. So the question is, how strong is that band? Really is how much snow we get. And where does that band set up exactly? I think right now, southern Vermont, but again, we'll have to see. Snow winds down between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. So you can see less than 12 hours of total. Really like a 9-10 hour event total, and really just 3 hours of where it's heavier. Roads will be slick throughout the day with much worse conditions the further south you travel. I think it'll be pretty tough travel anywhere south of, say, like Route 11. Is sort of the cutoff between where it's just it'll be probably snow covered even a little further north of that, but certainly Route 11 and south, it could be kind of potentially pretty tricky, and Route 9 and south is quite tricky. I think right now as things look. School cancellations are likely in southern Bennington and Windham counties, and less likely the further north you go. So the further north you go, the less chances of that there are. So I live right kind of at the center of all 4 of those counties. School here, our kids have yet to have a snow day, which is kind of crazy. They've had some days that were close, but not quite. They've had a lot of delays. I think they have I would say I'd put the over-under at about 60% chance that they have a cancellation on Tuesday. Not a guarantee. Delays don't look likely because of the timing of the storm. This is going to be either you're going to go to school or not, and it's going to be a tricky call for officials because unfortunately the snow is going to have just begun. You're going to kind of have to look at radar and guess, because early dismissal, by that point you're almost done with the storm. If you get the kids to school, let the snow happen and bring them home at 3 or whatever time you get out of school. So that's sort of my advice for what it's worth. Oops, going backwards again. Let's look at the 5-day forecast. Overall, a much more normal temperature week here. We're still a little above average yet tomorrow. Temperature is just above freezing on average, but close to freezing. Overnight, the snow happens. It's mostly in the upper 20s while it's snowing. Warm up a little bit in the afternoon into the low 30s. And we're pretty chilly Wednesday, especially with that breeze. Going to feel cold on Wednesday. If you're trying to ski some of that nice new snow on Wednesday, just know there could be some wind holds. It's going to be pretty breezy, windy at the mountains. The breeze lets up, but it's still going pretty good on Thursday. Before the front approaches Thursday overnight into Friday with a little bit of light snow. This is a less significant event. Could bring some light accumulation. So we will deal with this system as we get closer to it. I'll have an update on this probably Wednesday or Thursday for you, and we'll kind of have to see what it does with it. It looks like we're kind of busy after this as well and remain relatively cool going forward even after this. This should say work week highlights. Sorry about that. Busier weather week with 2 chances for snow. Monday night into Tuesday brings a light to moderate snow event. Thursday night into Friday brings a chance for light snow once again, but a little bit less. Wednesday and Thursday are seasonably cool with brisk winds, particularly Wednesday on that end. And long range beyond this week looks to continue the active and cool weather. There's a couple more chances for snow. Doesn't look like anything huge on the horizon, but definitely cold and definitely some chances for at least moderate snowstorms. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'll keep you all up to date. Thanks for supporting the channel. Want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. They help support what I do here at the West Weather Weather Guy. I couldn't do what I do without them. So if you're interested in what some of the things you can get as a patron, you can click on the link in the description below. It'll bring you to my Patreon page, which talks about that. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel before, I would encourage you to do so. Helps make sure you don't miss any of my videos. I will be back tomorrow morning with a detailed look at the storm once again and an updated snowball map.